Lowe's knows how to get you ready for holiday hosting with up to 35% off select home decor. And get up to 35% off select major appliances. Plus, members get free delivery, haul away, basic installation, parts, and a 2-year Lowe's protection plan when you spend $2,500 or more on select LG major appliances. Valid through 10/1. Member offer excludes Massachusetts, Maryland, Wisconsin, New Jersey, and Florida. Installed by independent contractors. Exclusions apply. See Lowe's.com for more details. Lowe's knows how to help make your home holiday ready for less. Get Select Style Selections vinyl flooring for just $1.99 per square foot and have it installed before the festivities begin. Our team can help you every step of the way. See a Lowe's Red Vest associate or visit Lowe's.com/holiday install to get started. Lowe's, we help, you save. Basic install only. Date restrictions apply. Subject to availability. Installed by independent contractors. See associate for details. Contiguous U.S. only.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Chilluminati podcast, episode 317. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Mike Martin, joined by my two non-raptured friends, Jesse and Alex.
We're still here.
Boys didn't get raptured. I'm so sorry.
Did you mistake me for possibly queer? I don't understand how the Bible works. Help me.
I must stress. I know we did that episode a while back about culty things and that whole when something doesn't come true, like a prophecy, how people adjust.
Yeah.
Watching it happen in real time was the greatest thing I've ever seen. I went to Rapture TikTok to go see all the people who had posted, I'm going to be raptured. And I went to go see, and it roughly breaks down to this. Not in, oh, wow, I was wrong. Man, that sucks. All of them were roughly, how dare you make fun of me for my beliefs?
Mm-hmm.
Would you rather believe in God and not get raptured, or mock me and not believe in God, and then when you had to stand before the Lord, be punished? And I was like, you just flipped that back on everyone. Yeah. That's crazy.
It's how you do it, dude. Well,
that's how you do it.
I think people did get raptured. They just weren't raptured away. I was middle of getting raptured.
No, Mathis.
There you were, mid-rapture.
God came to me in a dream. God came to me in a vision.
No, I was middle of the sky, dude. I was naked in the middle.
God came to me and he told me, what's up? He said, I won't rapture anyone until they release the Epstein files. He said that verbatim.
Whoa.
He said
that's big of him to take a stance like that. That's crazy.
Yeah, he said that.
Oh, then I probably shouldn't have just jerked off middle of rapture to make him send me back down so I could finish playing.
Yeah, no, he told me that was real awkward. He was like, "You hang out with this guy?" And I was like, I just hang out's a relative term. Like,
you what, mate?
Legally bound to be there? Yes. Yeah.
We spend time together often.
I was like, but trust me, God, I don't even know that guy. I don't even know. I don't
trust me, God. Trust me, God.
He's like, cool. Anyway, release the Epstein files. That's what he said.
Right.
That's what he said.
Release the Epstein files. Welcome back to Aleister Crowley, gentlemen. How are you? Aleister Crowley would be for the Epstein files being released. 100%.
But you know what he would love? Is if a bunch of people listening to this episode right now headed over to patreon.com/
Fair enough.
Yeah.
He loves it when people support the arts. And what is this but the art of confidence? Is that right?
It is, kind of, not necessarily wrong.
You can say that Aleister Crowley was a master of the art of confidence.
He really was.
In a way.
I would absolutely say that is not even in a way. He just was. He was the master of his own
unfortunately,
confidence.
he was literally a confidence artist.
He really, yes.
Despite the negative connotations that may connote.
Well, we'll see what that's about today and how negative his life ends up getting for a while. And it gets negative pretty bad for a while.
Negative pretty bad for a while?
Yeah, it really does. But I want everybody to before we start this episode, this is I want you to listen to this episode like Crowley intended. Filled with weed or whatever your particular substance is that legal wherever you are.
Finished.
And I told you boys this over text, but there was a brief moment while I had decided to do drug of a particular choice. I drove to a state where it was legal for sure to do it. And when I did it, I had a brief moment where I was like, I'm Aleister Crowley reincarnated. And I just want you to know you should, start worshiping me now. Because
I'm all right. I'll pass.
How did it feel?
I'm him.
How did it feel?
It was like 2 seconds where I was like, oh my God. And then after that, it was hilarious.
Question. What was this?
What do you mean? What was this?
You said you did a thing.
Oh, a drug. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I did mushrooms.
Okay. All right. So were you like traveling through reality? What happened to you?
I didn't crack through reality. I had a moment where I was like, I wonder if I can like contact Crowley, because I told you, like, I wonder if I'll reach him. And instead of
this is true. Last time this happened to you, you were like, I saw an old friend and he gave me advice.
Yeah. Yes, it was very bizarre.
So, and this time,
that's kind of the vibe that I would love. I would love a good, like, talk to an old friend. I don't know that I'd be chill with like, so Crowley had nothing better to do except come and talk to me.
Yeah, so Crowley, that's the thing. So like, no voices like showed up. Crowley didn't show up and talk to me. I tried. I was like, I wonder if, and I had a moment of like, no, I am Aleister Crowley reincarnated. And then it was really funny after that. There was no voice. I debated something that told me that the answers to the questions I have, the human mind is not built to comprehend or understand, and that no matter how many times I ask, I will never truly understand it. Now, that it was very bizarre, very high strangeness, but stories for another time.
Did you say it was rad?
It was super rad.
Hell yeah.
Is that a reference I'm not getting? Because I feel like it might be.
No, it's just a word that means like
kind of. I never know if you're like using the word rad but it's like a reference also.
No, this isn't high school. We're not trying to get you.
Waking up and realizing that I'm Aleister Crowley, I think would feel rad. So I was just wondering.
It was sick. It was a sick feeling for about 2 seconds, and then I found it hilarious that I even had that feeling at all. Like it washed away very fast. But that's not what today's about. Today's about the actual Aleister Crowley while he lived in the early 1900s, not as a reincarnated middle-aged white man doing a podcast about him.
I bet you there's a lot of those out there if you ask him.
I think there probably are. So last we left off, our boy Aleister Crowley had actually gone from being our boy. He's our boy, dude. From being a kid stuck in like a super Christian home to basically speed running his way to the top of the magical world.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He started calling himself the Great Beast because of his mom, terrorized his teachers, and then helped light the fuse that blew up the biggest magical club in Europe, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, all in about a 3-year span when he got initiated to when he
For those who don't remember, this man had a Professor X style fight with a bunch of other order members. And it might be the greatest description I've ever heard of anything in the history of mankind. Because it was nerdy as hell.
It probably it probably would have been a great place for Triumph the Insult Dog to be at.
Oh my God, it would have been perfect for that. The people standing around counterspelling while him and the head of the household were wrestling on the ground, imposing their will upon each other.
Counterspelling, you just know they were like, no, you didn't cast that. No,
Relax, shields.
I LARPed for like many years, and I don't even think that would have been as dorky as how this would have looked.
No, you didn't pronounce it correctly. Technically. You didn't pronounce it. I am not vampire. You refer to the rules.
Remember, he did attack somebody apparently in the astral plane with a vampire.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's just one guy who wanted to be included. That guy was in the corner. And he was like, oh, there's a vampire on me. And I was like, whoa.
No. Thank you so much to today's sponsor, HelloFresh. Man, summer was nice while it lasted, but it's already over. Isn't that sad? School started, fall's here, and that means cooler nights, heartier meals, and the craving for something warm and satisfying. And listen, sometimes it's okay to indulge in that desire, right? I know I do all the time. But that's where HelloFresh comes in, bringing you comforting, chef-design recipes and fresh seasonal ingredients right to your door. And this season, they've taken things to the next level with their biggest menu refresh yet. So say hello to a whole new way to do dinner. HelloFresh is bigger now. They have doubled their menu, which was already huge to begin with, might I add. And now you can choose from 100 options each week, including new seasonal dishes and recipes from around the world. Dig into bigger portions that'll keep everyone satisfied. And don't worry, you can feel great with an even healthier menu filled with high protein and veggie-packed recipes. HelloFresh now helps you eat greener, and with new veggie-packed recipes that have 2 or more veggies, dude, you're going to be chomping on green things all dinner long. But that stuff's good. And you can also get steak and seafood recipes too, and that's going to be delicious always. The best way to cook just got better. Just go to HelloFresh.com/chill10fm right now to get 10 free meals and a free item for life. 1 per box with active subscription, free meals applied as discount on first box. New subscribers only, varies by plan. That's HelloFresh.com/chill10fm to get 10 free meals plus a free item for life. I've been using HelloFresh forever. You should too. Go try it, guys. Thank you so much to HelloFresh for sponsoring today's episode. Then, after his kind of spooky little stint at his house over by Loch Ness, he ended up in Cairo in 1904. And this is where the story kind of takes the hard left turn off of the weird main magical road we've been on and goes screaming into the desert of channeled gods. Thanks to a series of what he saw as totally impossible nudges from his wife Rose, Crowley gets put on the psychic phone with something. A voice, a disembodied intelligence, spooky ghost, I don't know, whatever the fuck you want to call it, that named itself AIWAS. AIWASS. And for 3 straight days, 1 hour each day, Crowley just sat there and wrote down what this thing dictated to him. And the result was a short, super weird, and kind of just hard to understand document called the Book of the Law. Now, I've read the Book of the Law. It's 60 some odd pages. It's really short, and it's not even like paragraphs. It's like a bullet point list through the whole thing. It's very bizarre. I'm going to read excerpts of it in a moment here. Between this episode and next, if you want to read it, boys,
100% literal what he's saying. He's saying like literally this is what's happening here. It's not like where we're kind of like, oh, I was in a mind state where you could say that was happening.
Right. He doesn't believe. Yeah.
This is auto writing. He didn't work on it. He didn't go back and make it nice.
Correct. If you're familiar with the phenomenon of auto writing, that is kind of like what's happening here. The book claimed to be the new holy text for the next phase of humanity. And Crowley, the beast himself, and was its chosen prophet for some reason. And this should have been the ultimate win for him. The culmination of his entire life's work up to this point. Except he was, at least seemingly, terrified by the book. He looked at this thing that he'd written, this supposed divine revelation, and wanted nothing to do with it. He was so freaked out by its message and the sheer weight of what he was supposed to do with it that he took the manuscript, shoved it into a drawer, and then just tried to pretend the whole damn thing didn't happen for a long time.
So is there a lot of like, is that consistent with a lot of accounts that he had this book that he wrote that disturbed him? Or is that like suddenly when he published the book, he had this story about a few years ago, this disturbed me?
We do have some accounts this book is older than, but we'll get into it as we go through the story. I don't want to jump ahead too far because we are going to kind of get into like what he did with it and all that stuff. So the next chapter is kind of like what happens when this guy basically supposedly channels these weird gods and then ghosts the god. So on April 10th, 1904, the spooky voice of AIWAS clicks off, and Crowley's just sitting there in the Cairo apartment with a 65-page manuscript that's supposed to reboot human civilization. His first reaction, like I said, it wasn't pride or excitement, just like, hell no. Oh, hell no. I'm not dealing with this shit. Yeah. And he starts actually reading what he wrote down, and he said the dread of it just gets worse. The first chapter, supposedly spoken by a goddess named Nuit, is all this beautiful kind of cosmic poetry. This where like the line that I had Jesse read last time, every man and every woman is a star, came from. Very kind of Woodstock hippies vibe. But then the tone shifts.
Yeah, kind of feels cute almost.
Very, very much so. But then the tone shifts pretty hard. The next 2 chapters are kind of like this elitist, not so uncommonly violent, immoral philosophy that's laid out. And you got to remember, this is a dude who, for all his rebellion, he's still a product of Victorian England of the time. He was still steeped in the ethics of Western civilization.
He's still super sexist and racist.
Yeah, of course, you know. Now the document I'm working from
down on other cultures.
Yes, very, you know. The Book of Law that I'm about to read from includes a long explanation of the book's ideas, and it presents itself as if it's from the book itself. Even like I got confused when I started reading this because at the very beginning, there's paragraphs, and I thought this was also like AIWAS translation. It isn't. The first like few pages actually is not from the original cryptic ghost dictated text. It's from Crowley's own commentary that he wrote years later, kind of like his own commentary on what like
what the fuck
if he was
it
like to
mean?
do a director's cut commentary on a movie or something. Like that's what the opening of the book is.
Sure.
So I'm going to read you in his own words, Crowley trying to make sense of this new world order. It's him trying to explain this book before you read the book. And I'm just going to read this next. And it also give you like a really good idea of the tone and how Crowley writes. And it's a bit long, so just hang in there. The third chapter of the book is difficult to understand and may be very repugnant to many people born before the date of the book, April 1904. It tells us the characteristics of the period on which we are now entered. Superficially, they appear appalling. We see some of them already with terrifying clarity. But fear not. It explains that certain vast stars, or aggregates of experience, may be described as gods. One of these is in charge of the destinies of this planet for periods of 2,000 years. In the history of the world, as far as we know accurately, are three such gods. Isis, the mother, when the universe was conceived as simple nourishment drawn directly from her. This period is marked by matriarchal government. Next, beginning 500 BC, Osiris the father, when the universe was imagined as catastrophic, love, death, resurrection as the method by which experience was built up. This corresponds to patriarchal systems. And now, Horus, the child, in which we come to perceive events as a continual growth partaking in its elements of both these methods and not to be overcome by circumstance. This present period involves the recognition of the individual as the unit of society. We realize ourselves, as explained in the first paragraphs of this essay. Every event, including death, is only one more accretion to our experience, freely willed by ourselves from the beginning and therefore also predestined. This god, in quotes, Horus, has a technical title, Heru Ra-Ha, a combination of twin gods Ra-Hor-Kuit and Hor-Parkrat. The meaning of this doctrine must be studied in magic. He is symbolized as a hawk-headed god enthroned. He rules the present period of 2,000 years beginning in 1904. Everywhere his government is taking root. Observe for yourselves the decay of the sense of sin, the growth of innocence and irresponsibility, the strange modifications of the reproductive instinct with a tendency to become bisexual or epicene, the childlike confidence in progress combined with nightmare fear of catastrophe, against which we are yet half unwilling to take precautions. Consider the outcrop of dictatorships, only possible when moral growth is in its earliest stages, and the prevalence of infantile cults like communism, fascism, pacifism, health crazes, occultism, and nearly all its forms, religion sentimentalized to the point of practical extinction. Consider the popularity of the cinema, the wireless, the football pools and guessing competitions, all devices for soothing fractious infants, no seed of purpose in them. Consider sport, the babyish enthusiasm and rages which it excites, whole nations disturbed by disputes between boys. Consider war, the atrocities which occur daily and leave us unmoved and hardly worried. We are children. How this new aeon of Horus will develop, how the child will grow up, these are for us to determine, growing up ourselves in the way of the law of Thelema under the enlightened guidance of Master Therion. The moment of change from one period to another is technically called the equinox of the gods. It's also kind of a weird side shout out to another book he had written by this time. Which
sure,
is called
I was about
The
to say
Equinox of the Gods.
that's a very
The
well-known.
Empire strikes
Yeah, exactly.
back.
Yeah.
Remember, they always strike back.
Democracy dodders. Ferocious fascism, cackling communism, equally frauds, cavort crazily all over the globe. They are hemming us in. They are abortive births of the child, the new aeon of Horus. Liberty stirs once more in the womb of time. Evolution makes its changes by anti-socialistic ways. The abnormal man who foresees the trend of the times and adapts circumstances intelligently is laughed at, persecuted, often destroyed by the herd. But he and his heirs, when the crisis comes, are survivors. Above us today hangs a danger never yet paralleled in history. We suppress the individual in more ways. We think in terms of the herd. War no longer kills soldiers, it kills all indiscriminately. Every new measure of the most democratic and autocratic governments is communistic in essence. It is always restriction. We are all treated as imbecile children. DORA, the Shops Act, the motoring laws, Sunday suffocation, the censorship, they won't trust us to cross the roads at will. Fascism is like communism, and dishonest into the bargain. The dictators suppress all art, literature, theater, music, news. That does not meet their requirements. Yet the world only moves by the light of a genius. The herd will be destroyed in mass. The establishment of the law of Thelema is the only way to preserve individual liberty and to assure the future of the race. In the words of the famous paradox of Comte de Phoenix, the absolute rule of the state shall be a function of the absolute liberty of each individual will. All men and women are invited to cooperate with the Master Therion in this, the great work.
It's like Squidward doctrine. It's pretty hardcore. It's like cool guy justification thesis. Yeah,
in 1904-ish, like cool guy justification thesis. And you can, again, God, he's insufferable. Like,
I mean,
it really wasn't like that.
I love reading it because I can hear his annoying voice when I do it. And I can just like see him feeling his own genius and jerking himself off when he's like writing this opening to this book. It's just phenomenal. But he's also got a way with words. He really does. He's very poetic. He's very descriptive.
And
he's very theatrical.
He's not really saying stuff.
No,
that's not good. Like a lot of the stuff that he's saying is very like, hey, society sucks. And we're just trying to shake off the shackles of society and do what we want to do instead. And people should be thinking about that more. That part is like a sort of correct sort of like he ended up being right about this.
It's when he hooks up onto like the law of Thelema is the only way to preserse it, though. Is right. Like, all right, well,
him being like jaywalking. How dare you be angry and set laws so we don't get hit by?
But these are all new things back then, you know.
Yeah, he's just up his own butt on it. Like this is kind of like when you hear someone complain about laws and things that are happening today, but it's like, yeah, but you may not like it, but there's a reason that law exists because someone else did something absolutely stupid. Like this,
it does start. Yeah. It does start to sound a little bit like libertarian, like anti-vax, like I got a Cybertruck before Elon went crazy type shit. Like,
there's the interesting thing is it clearly comes, and you can tell in the way he's writing, it comes from a place of privilege. Like because he's so wealthy and he grew up so like he isn't. I don't. The things he says, you're like right. No, you benefited from the system that existed. So why are we changing anything?
Now that I had all this free time because I didn't have to work all of the day, I was able to think about the fact that people should have more, hear me out, free time.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Hey, at least he's a rich guy who came to that conclusion.
That's true.
That everybody else should have some free time as opposed to being like only I should have free time.
That's true. I mean, he didn't have a problem with being the only guy with free time, but he thought other people should have some.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. So, basically he's saying history's broken up into 2,000-year periods or aeons, each ruled by a different god concept, just to kind of pack it up for people who may have tuned out halfway there. Basically says first, you have the idea of Aeon of Isis, ultimate mom god era. Universe was all about nourishment. Things were run by matriarchs and everyone was getting their needs met directly from
we
source.
We used to eat liver. Do you hear me? We used to eat pure liver and blood. And that,
like the Liver King, dude.
But yeah, that's exactly like what the tone of this religious sort of like, obviously he's appealing to like a time that is not accessible in a realistic way, right? It's like in the same way that like the Liver King guy is like going back to like the caveman days because it's like a time that you can like really easily romanticize because most people have no idea what it was like, and just sort of like does like a remix on Egyptian religion because nobody ancient Egyptian is there to be like, what the fuck are you talking about, bro? Like
I mean, yes.
Yeah.
Correct. Like, it's crazy. Like, I don't know. We're going to keep going because just hang on. Just like bottle that. We got more.
Yeah.
Because next up, then the 500 BC era, this was the Aeon of Osiris, dad god time. Universe is now seen as the cycle of catastrophe, the cycle of love and death and resurrection. Think a lot more father figures, patriarchal systems, and the story of the dying and rising god familiar in other gods. Like, the dying and rising, like virgin birth, God, dying and resurrection.
It's been done before. Yeah.
It's Dionysus and Greek gods. It's I think it's Ra, right? It's Ra and Egyptian gods.
And that's the only ones I can think of.
And that's the only one. Yeah. Those are the only two.
That's never happened before after that.
Never.
Before or
not
after?
Once. Never. And that brings us to where we are now, or we still are technically now in 2025, but what began in 1904, the Aeon of Horus. This is Magic Space Child kind of timeline, which supposedly, technically he says it kicked off right before 1904, or right as 1904 started. This is our time. This is the era. The individual is the most important. We're all supposed to realize we're the center of our own universe, and every single thing that happens to us, even death, is just another experience that we willed for ourselves to have, which also sounds very familiar to a lot of other beliefs in ancient Eastern religions. Horus basically is the boss for the next 2,000 years, and Crowley says his influence is basically starting to pop up everywhere. And this is where he gets kind of real spicy, looking at the budding 20th century and basically saying, I told you so. He writes, quote, and I'm going to...
Question. Based on what he was saying,
mm-hmm.
Is he pro-individualism or anti? Because it sounded like he was saying, he keeps dropping like communism is going to be the death of us all. But he also sounds like he's saying the individualism is what's making you all corrupt.
No, what he's saying is it's the power of the individualism, because what he's saying about communism is it turns you into a mindless herd devoid of individualism.
Sure. But then he said stuff that only in an individualistic society could we actually achieve. And he's like, that's bad too.
Like what? Sorry.
Well, he was talking about the corruption that happens with people, and like that's not like a communistic corruption. That's the corruption of an individual wanting their own needs and desires and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, he's a little hypocritical in some of the things he says for sure, because like we said, he does get into this list of like old man get off my lawn political movements.
There's a little bit of Squidward doctrine in there. There's a little bit of Bert from Bert and Ernie doctrine in there. But I think to his credit, dude had no books besides the Bible till he was like a grown ass boy. Yeah.
Yeah. He
so
was
he's
like 14
probably
when he got started
sheltered.
building his own.
Probably not the most used to dealing with anybody who lives in a different way than him.
Yeah, exactly. Like again, 14 is when he got his hands on his first book that wasn't the Bible. But still, like
that's crazy.
He is an individual built and boiled in a unique world and circumstance. There's also shout outs. I can't remember the Reddit user, but over on the subreddit, someone posted there's a documentary from Australia, a 45-minute documentary about the Plymouth Brethren, and that there still exists today. And that kind of after the main leader of it died, what happens? It fractured. And it became a bunch of other different, more like intense cults. Just go. It's worth it. 45 minutes. It's worth a watch. Thank you. Huge shout out to the person who dropped that. I apologize. I didn't write you in my script, so I forgot your name. I'm very sorry. But it's a really cool look at what this religion is. But yeah, like, and it is pretty wild to hear the guy who started his own magic cult call communism and fascism infantile cults. It's like, you know, little
he
pot
mocks
kettle there.
Sports.
Yes.
You know, like he says, like, look at us.
It's a
we
boys
enjoy
game.
All
the
those
sport.
jocks with their easy lives, with their big muscles that people just like without having to be educated, that their bodies just draw them towards so that they don't have to get inheritances to have power in social life. It's like,
dear
come on, dude.
4chan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Yeah. There's a good chance Crowley would have become a 4chaner, man.
It's the incel.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. He just rants and raves about this stuff. He's just, I don't understand. Like I said, I don't understand because he goes against theater as well in like cinema, but then he says autocrats remove the arts. And
Yeah,
like,
again,
so
like I'm
which
saying,
is
he's very contradictory in what he said, but it has the same vibe as when you read a fortune, where it's like this month, make sure you don't get involved in any new things, but also trying new things can get you involved in stuff. And you're like, huh?
Yeah.
It's that kind of vibe.
Yeah, you'll appreciate this, what I wrote next, Jesse, because I mean, you've already said it, but it's the most galaxy brain libertarian fucking rant you've ever heard from a guy trying to start a new world religion, essentially. Like it's literally libertarian ranting. Like that's exactly what he's doing. And of course, what's the only way to save humanity from this nanny state nightmare? You guessed it, establishing the law of Thelema with him, the Master Therion. He's Master Therion, by the way, leading the charge.
Did it cost money
So
to buy the book?
his money?
Like, did you have to
of course.
you had to buy it. Okay.
Yeah, of course. So that was all Crowley's sales pitch. But let's get back now to 1904 and the stuff in the book that actually had him supposedly so freaked out. Remember, man that was forced to memorize the Gospels, guy raised, blessed are the meek. Then he reads the second chapter of this new holy book, spoken supposedly by an entity named Hadith, and gets hit with this absolute, just like, anti-sermon. I'm going to have Jesse read this. This is right out of the Book of Law, chapter 2 from Hadith, which is a very different. Each chapter is a different god, and they have very different tones.
I definitely read this when I was like 23, and I was like, yo.
Right, exactly. Yeah. It's got that like stoner, like, you know, philosophy vibe to it a little bit.
It's like Donnie Darko adjacent in a way.
Yeah. I've never seen Donnie Darko, but I understand.
Okay, let's say the Boondock Saints, just like the type of the people that watch those movies at that time. Fight Club is another movie in this.
Okay, yeah.
I feel like at that time you also read the book of what's it called? The Book of Lies, the Book of Law.
The Book of the Law.
Yeah, Book of Law. Yeah.
I can't. Yeah. This is purely up its own butt text. All right, here we go.
Up its own butt text, dude.
We have nothing with the outcasts and the unfit. Let them die in their misery, for they feel not. Compassion is the vice of kings. Stamp down the wretched and the weak. This is the law of the strong. This is our law and the joy of the world. Yo, that is literally when people on TV are like, empathy is evil.
Yeah.
Like, it's the same vibe, dude. That's crazy.
Chapter two is basically that kind of vibe the whole way through. It's only chapter 2 though. It's only Hadith. When he is speaking, does he see things like this? It's weird. I mean, like, he literally stamped down the wretched and the weak. That's about as far from the turn the other cheek as you can get that he learned. It's basically interdimensional social Darwinism. And it wasn't just a one-off line. The third chapter, dictated by the hawk-headed god of war, Rahor Kuit.
Really quickly. Like, just really quickly.
Yeah.
Sure.
Once we've stamped down all of the poor and the weak, and they no longer exist, who runs all the things that we do so that we can live a life of luxury?
You're the master of your own universe, bro. You figure it out.
Hear me out. AI, dude.
Oh, shit. You're right. Never mind. Empathy's a sin. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
blockchain,
exactly.
bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it. All right.
Alex,
who needs people when we can have robots? Yeah, all right.
Blockchain, baby.
I'm going to have you read this quote, Alex, from chapter 3. This is a quote dictated by the hawk-headed god of war, Rahor Kuit, which just doubles down on the violence. The text, again, we're working with is kind of the greatest hits of some of the most metal lines I've read, though.
Sick. Okay. Worship me with fire and blood. Worship me with swords and with spears. Let blood flow to my name. Trample down the heathen. Be upon them, O warrior. I will give you of their flesh to eat.
Sick.
Hell yeah. Fuck yeah, bro.
Yeah, this is the document he's kind of stuck with after 3 days of 1 hour channeling or automatic writing. 1 part cosmic, we're all stardust poetry. 2 parts brutal manifesto for a holy war with the side of cannibalism in there. It's kind of just like a weird, I mean, if he really was scared, it's no wonder he was scared of this thing. Like, it's a weird ass fucking book. And this wasn't some philosophical idea to be debated in like a London drawing room. This was a divine order, and he'd just been made the fucking 5-star general of Team Eat the Heathens. The weight of that was a lot for Crowley. This is the
5-star general of Team Eat the Heathens is an incredible thing to say.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. I was very proud of that. But like, this is the Crowley world, man. But this is like all the shit he believes in. So like, when this happens to him, that's how he feels. So what does he fucking do? He just tries to find an excuse to fucking get out of it. Is what he starts trying to do. He decides to test the book. He types up copies of the manuscript and sends them to the smartest, most advanced occultist he knows, including his old mentor, George Cecil Jones, which we talked about in episode 1. And this is where I'm talking about. There's evidence that this book had been around for a little while because he was sending copies of it off early. He figured, hey, if this thing is for real, maybe these guys will immediately recognize its power, right? Like maybe that'll be it. And he sends it out and he waits. He waits. Total silence. Nobody writes back at all. Like in the few that did write back, there was no awe in their writing back. They were just like, interesting. When Jones though finally wrote back, and he did finally get back to him, he literally basically just dismissed it as it was nothing special. He's like, meh, there's nothing special about this. And for Crowley, that was the best news he could have actually ever received. It was his out. Well, the experts have spoken, book's a dud. Guess it was just some weird psychic indigestion I had in Cairo. We're out, we're free. I don't have to worry about it anymore. And with a totally clear conscience, he takes the original handwritten pages, the supposed key to the new age for all of mankind through the law of Thelema, and he misplaces them, hoping to never see them again. He loses them. He just fucking loses them. He just kind of put them down. It's like, I don't need this.
Ultimate
it's unimportant.
Chaos magic, forgetting. It's
kind
gone.
of like not on purpose. Like he, as far as he kind of says, he just kind of plopped it in with his papers and it just kind of disappeared into the shuffle one. Like he just lost track of it. He didn't give a shit about it anymore.
That's so crazy, dude.
And after telling a god to get lost and conveniently losing its holy book, Crowley decides to try the most shocking and rebellious thing he can think of at this point in his life. He tries what I feel like all people born and raised in his circumstances try at least once. He tries to be normal. He just tries.
This is his like work at KFC arc.
Right. He because remember, he's married at this point. He has a wife.
Sure.
So he and Rose pack up from Cairo, leave Egypt, and head back to his estate back in Boleskine, I think is how you say it. I think I was saying it wrong before. That house on the shores of Loch Ness. And he settles into the life of a proper, just Scottish laird. He's hunting, he's fishing, writing poetry. And it's not about blood-drinking war gods. It's about love and nature and boring hippie shit. And in July of 1904, he and Rose would have their first child, a daughter. And now the document we're working from says he named her Nuit, after the supposed star goddess in the book he just disowned.
Nuit, like Nuit, like night in French?
Is that how it's supposed to be? Is it supposed to be night? Like, because it's like Egyptian, I thought.
I don't know. Doesn't that mean night in French? Maybe it's the same.
I don't know. Maybe it is the same.
La nuit.
And that was her name. Well, he named her Nuit. I knew. It doesn't matter. He named her Nuit, but that was just her first name because her actual name, the one she went by, was Lilith.
Sure, of course.
You have to hear her whole name. I will copy paste it, but I'm going to say it first. It is Nuit Ma Ahathor Hakate Sappho Jezebel Lilith Crowley.
Oh, so got beat up at school a lot. Crowley.
Sappho Jezebel Lilith?
Yeah, yeah, there you go. I copy pasted. There you
Nuit
go.
Ma Ahatur Hecate. So far, like, at least it's just a strange name that, like, maybe is interesting. Sappho Jezebel Lilith is like... it's Nuit. Try too hard, Crowley. It's like the activation like spell of like Manchurian Christians.
Yeah, the Winter Soldier is going to activate. Yeah,
dude, absolutely.
The Holy Soldier, the Shining Soldier. Like, yeah,
the Shining Soldier. And like for a hot second, he's kind of got it all. He's a husband, a dad, wealthy, country gentleman, poet. He's living the life he was, quote unquote, supposed to be living. But we all know that ain't going to last. You can't domesticate the great beast. The quiet life for him was like a cage, and the dude needed to rattle the bars. The divine purpose that he was running from left a God-sized hole in his life, and he needed to fill it with something loud and dangerous enough to drown out all that silence. He needed a mission, a war. And so he looked around the globe and found the biggest, coldest, and most unforgiving enemy he could. A mountain. And he decided... What? Yeah, he's mountaineer.
He's back on his bitch. He's back on his
hiking.
shit. Yeah.
He's going mountain climbing. He decided he was going to be the first man to conquer the third highest peak on Earth, Kangchenjunga. I mean, I think that's how you say it, but just like better than that. If you're trying, like, this is for him, the biggest distraction he could find. And in 1905, this is about as big and distracting as it got for him. So you got to understand the sheer monumental arrogance of this idea, though. This isn't like any old mountain. It's located on the border of Nepal and Sikkim. Kangchenjunga is the third highest peak in the world, and climbers call it the Savage Mountain. It's infamous for being insanely difficult and prone to just deciding to kill you with a sudden massive avalanche at the most imperfect time. And back then, it was one of the last great unconquered prizes of mountain climbing. More a mythical monster than one that had ever been conquered. For Crowley, that's exactly what he fucking wanted. This was perfect. It was a giant, immoral force of nature that he could throw his ego against. It was a war he understood, something that he's used to doing. And he finances the whole thing himself and assembles an international team of actual experienced climbers, including a Swiss doctor named Jules Jacques Goulimard. Then there was a massive support team of hundreds of local porters from Darjeeling. And at the top of this whole pyramid was Crowley himself, the dictatorial leader of this posse of people, a small village of people. And this is where the cracks start to show before they even fucking hit the snow. Crowley's leadership style was, to put it mildly, a fucking dumpster fire. He was arrogant, he was nasty, and had a serious sadistic streak. The other climbers, especially the professional Dr. Guillemard, were used to a team approach where, you try not to die together. Crowley treated them like cannon fodder in his personal, psychodrama of his story of conquering this mountain. His treatment of the local porters was even worse, monstrously worse. He saw them as tools, not people, and believed the only way to get them to work was through pure terror. It's on this trip that he gets a reputation for using his whip and even his pistol to threaten and beat the porters into submission. He was far from a team leader. He became a tyrant ruling a tiny mobile kingdom with an iron fist bought by his money. This is where the cracks in the humanity of who this fucking asshole is under the surface of all his occult enlightenment. Far from a band of brothers, this was a dysfunctional, resentful crew being dragged up a death trap by one man's ego. And once they got onto the Yalung Glacier, the conditions were brutal. Extreme cold, thin air, altitude sickness is kicking everyone's ass. But the toxic atmosphere within the team was even worse than the weather. Crowley and the Swiss climbers clashed over everything. They argued about the route, with Crowley pushing for a path that was faster, but also way, way more likely to get them all killed. They argued about the pace because Crowley just wanted to go, 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 regardless of human cost. And they argued constantly about his horrific treatment of the porters, which appalled the other climbers and Guillemard. The expedition basically split into two warring factions, the sane professional climbers and Crowley. And while all this was going on, Crowley's behavior just gets fucking weirder. While everyone else is focused on the life and death business of not falling into a crevice, he's often off in his own little world, daydreaming. He's sitting in his tent writing poetry, scribbling in his diary about his grand magical will versus the will of the mountain. He wasn't on a climbing expedition in his own mind. For him, this was a giant magical operation that was going to help cleanse him and recenter him magically. He was the hero of his story, living that universe perspective that he so claimed. And the mountain was the dragon for all intents and purposes. And everyone else, the experienced climbers and the porters that he was brutalizing, were just NPCs in his story. This wasn't an expedition. It was a hostage situation at 20,000 feet. And it was about to all go horribly, tragically wrong. Because, the truly insane part is that despite Crowley running this little frozen dictatorship and the whole team hating each other's guts, they were actually making incredible progress. It's a testament to just how good the other climbers really were. They pushed higher and higher.
So I keep forgetting that this is about Aleister Crowley now. This is fucking.
Now we're in a mountain, fucking tragedy. His life, is insane. Like the reality and the truth of his life, when you leave even if you leave all the myth at the door, is insane. And yeah, this is still about Crowley. As they pushed higher and higher, setting up camps along the glacier, by early 1905, they hit Camp 5 at around 21,000 feet, higher than anyone had ever been on the mountain Kangchenjunga before. As they hit this, they were at their absolute limit. They were exhausted, frostbitten, and honestly, from just the sounds of like the diary entries I read, spiritually shattered. These people were done. The team was in a state of open mutiny. Dr. Guillermod and two of the other climbers, an individual by the name of Rigi and another by Posh, had finally had enough. They looked at the route Crowley was insisting on, looked at the unstable snow, looked at each other, and made the only sane goddamn choice anyone can make in that moment, basically saying,
let's
no,
beat his ass. Yeah.
This is suicide. We're turning back, whether the psycho in charge who paid us.
Yeah.
Exactly. Likes it or not. Fuck you. We're going home. Like, we're getting out of here. The expedition, right on the verge of historic success, finally collapsed under the weight of Crowley's bullshit. And that's when the Savage Mountain decided, fuck it. I'm going to get involved too. Now, to give you build the scene, you're over 21,000 feet up, basically on the edge of space. The expedition, in 1905, mind you, the expedition has its final ugly breakup. Guillermod, Rigi, and Posh, along with a few of the other porters, confront Crowley. They're done. They tell him the route ahead is a death trap and that he is, in their professional opinion, a reckless madman. They're all going down with or without him. Crowley is incandescent with rage, just completely loses it at this point. In his mind, this isn't a smart safety decision. It's ultimate betrayal. He was about to conquer his great enemy to win his personal war against this fucking mountain, and his soldiers were deserting him on the battlefield alone. Now there's a sacred unwritten rule of the mountains. You are responsible for the people you are with. Your lives are in each other's hands. And Crowley took that rule, spit on it, set it on fire, shit on it afterward, and in a staggering act of pure fucking hubris, he just absolves himself of all responsibility. He tells them if they're going down, they're on their own. He's staying put. So this small, desperate party, with Guillermod and all, and the three local porters begin their dangerous trip down the glacier alone. They're exhausted, demoralized, and moving across a stretch of ice notorious for being unstable. And that's when it happened. One of the men slips. The rope team loses its footing. The slight disturbance is all it takes. The whole unstable snowpack just fucking lets go. A massive slab of snow and ice breaks free with a deafening crack and roar. If you've ever heard large crack of ice, like in videos, as it just like echoes, that's the noise that echoes across this bordering on space mountainside, and it just sweeps down the mountain. The climbers and porters are just engulfed, tossed like rag dolls in just pure white chaos, and buried. And by some absolute miracle, though, some of them survive. Dr. Guillermod and Rigi, battered and half frozen, actually managed to claw their way out of the snow. But Alexis Pash and the three other porters who were with them were gone, vanished under the avalanche, buried deep under tons of ice. And now, stranded and in shock with darkness falling, the survivors do the only thing they can. They start screaming for help.
God.
Their desperate cries echo up the silent frozen glacier right to Camp 5, where their leader, Aleister Crowley, sits alone in his tent. And Crowley heard them. He would admit that later. He heard their cries for help clear as day for over an hour. And this is it. This is the moment that would define Aleister Crowley for the rest of his life. He's the expedition leader. He has a duty to these men. A cry for help in the high Himalayas is a sacred call to action to mountaineers that any decent human being would do something to answer. But Crowley did nothing. According to the survivors, he briefly poked his head out of his tent, looked down the glacier at the scene of the devastation, and then, deciding the situation was hopeless, simply went back inside. To do what? Drink tea and write in his diary. And I'm not making that up. Like, he made no attempt to form a rescue party. He offered no aid. He sat alone in his tent, sipping tea and scribbling his thoughts down while members of his team were dead or dying in the snow just a few hundred yards below him. Now, to be fair, I don't know what you can do to save them. I know, like, even on Everest today, you sit down and fall asleep on the peak, you basically have to be left behind. There might be some tries to rescue you, but Everest is littered with bodies and people die on it every year. But something about just having, like, the survivors even saying they saw, like, his head peek over and he just kind of like walked away and did nothing. I don't know. It feels still very cold to me.
I mean, you can say, yeah, like, what could you do? But also, this is a man who notoriously said, don't have empathy, use the little people, stamp on them. Like, yeah, he doesn't ring to me as a guy who'd be like, what can I do to help them? They're down, they're dying. He's like, well, yeah. I'm fine. So what does it matter?
To that point, for the rest of his life, Aleister Crowley had a neat 2-part answer as to why he did nothing. Part 1 was his quote unquote rational leader excuse. He'd argue that a rescue attempt at night in an active avalanche zone would have been pure suicide. He'd be risking more lives to save men who were probably already dead. And, on the surface, that's a cold but arguably large logical assessment for a mountaineering perspective. But then you look at what he was actually writing, and you get the second, far more chilling reason if you read. He saw the accident as a kind of divine punishment. In his mind, they had defied his will, they had mutinied against him, and the mountain itself had passed judgment. They brought it on themselves. This was magic in action.
Lowe's knows how to help make your home holiday ready for less. Get Select Style Selections vinyl flooring for just $1.99 per square foot and have it installed before the festivities begin. Our team can help you every step of the way. See a Lowe's Red Vest associate or visit Lowes.com/holiday install to get started. Lowe's, we help, you save. Basic install only. Date restrictions apply. Subject to availability. Installed by independent contractors. See associate for details. Contiguous U.S. only.
Bugs crashing your pack's party? Whether they've got paws or sneakers, your pack deserves a home that's protected from pests. That's where Wonderside comes in. Plant-powered protection made with steam-distilled natural essential oils that actually work. It kills and repels fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, and ants without questionable ingredients or overpowering smells. Safe to use around kids and pets when used as directed. Lab-proven to work fast. And proudly made in the USA. We offer sprays for pets, people, homes, and yards. Plus, spot-on treatments, collars, and even shampoos. Whatever your pack needs, we've got it covered. Founded by a pet parent looking for a better way to protect her dog Luna, Wonderside's now protected over 21 million lives and counting. You might have even seen us on Shark Tank. Go to Wonderside.com and use code WONDER20 for 20% off your first order. That's WONDER20 at Wonderside.com. Wonderside. Protect your pack with plant-powered Wonderside today.
The most damning evidence, as always, comes from the man himself. According to his own diary, written as his men lay dying just a few hundred feet below him, he had the following to say. Alex, you can take this one if you'd like.
A mountain accident of a nature which is not altogether unforeseen. I was not over anxious to deliberately sacrifice my own life and that of my coolies. The end of the expedition is a fitting commentary on the beginning.
And that just immediately shows how cold he was about it. Like, he was writing that as it happened. No grief in that, no remorse, just detached, kind of an analysis, observing a failed experiment kind of tone. Just like, well, that's what happens. And the next morning, Crowley calmly packs up his camp. He and the porters who stayed with him begin their descent. And they walk right past the scene of the avalanche, past the surviving shell-shocked climbers without offering any significant aid or help in searching for the bodies of the dead. He just walked away. And when he finally got back to civilization, the story he spun for the press was an absolute masterpiece of self-serving, victim-blaming garbage. He blamed the dead climbers for their own demise, citing what he called their mountaineering inadvisabilities. The international climbing community was horrified. He was condemned as a coward and a monster. His career as a world-class mountaineer was over effectively after this permanently, and he had run to the most dangerous corner of the world to escape his destiny. And all he found there was an even darker version of the beast he'd always been anyway. The Kangchenjunga scandal made Crowley a total mountaineering pariah. Stripped of the one thing that gave him a somewhat respectable identity, he became a wanderer. He left India and, with his wife Rose and their infant daughter Lilith in tow, just drifted through the East. He was a man with no reputation left to lose, still running from the prophecy of the Book of the Law, and it seems the universe was about to crank up the pressure to get his attention. Because the next tragedy struck in Rangoon, Burma in 1906. Their young daughter, Lilith, the child whose first name was Nuit, was a nod to the very revelation he was supposedly abandoning. The daughter contracted typhoid fever. This was a moment that could have brought a fractured family together under the right circumstances, a crisis that kind of demanded the full attention of a father, but instead it just revealed the chilling, empty depths of Crowley's detachment from basic human emotion. As his infant daughter's life kind of just hung in the balance, with his wife Rose growing more and more frantic and unstable, Crowley simply just fucking left. He went off on a hunting expedition, leaving them to deal with the crisis alone. His diaries from that time, too, are a bizarre mess of like random travel notes and grandiose, magical nasal gaving, with almost no mention of the fact that his own child was even dying in them. And while he was away, of course, Lilith fucking died.
Dude.
When Crowley returned, he wasn't met with shared grief. He was met with blame, and he deflected it immediately. In his mind, the fault for his child's death wasn't his own staggering negligence. It was all Rose's fault. Duh. He accused her of causing Lilith's death through her own carelessness and her escalating alcoholism. This accusation, though, was the final killing blow to the marriage altogether. And the story of Rose Kelly is one of the most tragic in Crowley's entire orbit, and there are many more to come. The woman who had been the clear, calm channel for the supposed divine intelligence in Cairo was now completely broken. The strain of her life with him, the horror of losing a child, and her own pre-existing struggles and budding alcoholism plunged her into severe alcoholism. Their travels ended. Crowley would eventually have her institutionalized, and they would never see each other again. The unwitting oracle of the supposed new Aeon was just another casualty left in the prophet's chaotic and dangerous wake. Like, it's the ending to Rose is wildly unfair and just very evil. Like, he does the typical abusive thing of like, he'll leave, and since he's not there, he can't be to blame because he didn't do anything wrong. He wasn't there. So obviously it was Rose's fault because, you know, she died while Rose was there. It sucks.
That is so like of its time in the most like disgusting way.
Yeah.
Right. 1906. I mean, yeah, look at where his life's at in 1906, right? Reputation as a world-class mountaineer now gone, completely destroyed. Firstborn child, dead. Wife, lost to alcoholism and locked away in an institution. He's managed to fail spectacularly at every single aspect of any conventional, successful, normal life. He is completely alone, stripped of family, fame, any sense of direction. And for a man with a lesser ego, this would have broken them. But Crowley's ego is just too fucking big to be broken by what would break normal, empathetic people. Let's just get into it. Crowley, he progressed the staggering, like this next series of personal failures. He saw them not as a result of his own bottomless arrogance, but like as a deliberate, systematic campaign of divine punishment. This was the gods punishing him, is how he spun this in his mind. This is the crucial turning point for Crowley. He looks at the wreckage, concludes that the secret chiefs, the spooky entities behind the Book of the Law, were intentionally blowing up his life to force him back onto their chosen path.
Right.
This is the kind of ego fortress we're talking about here, where any sort of like horrible life thing is now, well, it's divine. It's divine. Out of my hand, so what am I going to do?
Not one,
like,
not two. A plethora of gods have come for me specifically.
Correct. Exactly correct. And from his perspective, the deaths on King Chenjunga, this was the universe pushing him for his pride and for trying to run from his mission. The horrific death of his daughter, Lilith, this was a brutal lesson in the consequences of his disobedience. The total collapse of his marriage, this was just the gods stripping away all the worldly attachments that were distracting him from his true will. He had tried to throw their holy book in the trash, and in return, they were burning his entire world to the ground. Reflecting on this period, he wrote, and I will have Jesse read this.
I was still baffled, a soul in agony. My failure on Kangchenjunga and the death of my child had robbed me of my self-confidence. I began to ask myself whether the secret chiefs who had initiated me were not tired of my disloyal neglect. Everything that I had touched had crumbled into dust.
That's how, in his own words, he saw it. Stripped of everything, he then decides to continue his journey alone, wandering deeper into the wilderness of southern China. It was here, at his absolute lowest point, a failed leader, grieving, well, in air quotes, grieving father, a man with nothing left to lose, that he finally decided that, fuck it, I'm just going to stop running, that he was ready to pick up the phone, and he decides to perform a grand magical ritual to finally get a straight answer from the cosmos. This isn't some fluffy ceremony in a fancy temple. This was raw, desperate magic performed alone in the wild. He starts scrying, staring into a reflective surface to get visions, and this time, he gets a clear signal.
Oh boy.
He makes contact with some non-physical intelligence that calls itself Abuldiz, Abuldiz. And Abuldiz was not here to offer a shoulder to cry on. It was there to deliver a cosmic kind of ass-kicking. The message, in no uncertain terms, was a confirmation of his darkest fears. The voice tells him that every single tragedy of the last 2 years was a direct consequence of him ditching the Book of the Law, the dead climbers, death of his daughter, end of his marriage, all of it orchestrated and as a campaign of divine punishment to break him down for his disobedience. He was given a simple, stark ultimatum. Either accept the mission as the prophet of the new Aeon and get to work, or face an even greater future of suffering, ending with the complete and utter destruction of his magical powers. The rough method. It's tough. Yeah. That was it. The god he had been running from for 2 years, finally backed him into a corner, and the running to him was supposedly over. Humbled and terrified into submission, Crowley began the long journey back to Europe. He knew his first task. He had to find the original handwritten manuscript of the Book of the Law, the one that he so carelessly lost years before. He returns to his home in Boleskine, now haunted by the ghosts of his failed life and the demons that he summoned that he never fully got rid of, if you remember that half ritual he did for 6 months, but not fully 6 months. And he starts tearing the whole fucking house apart. And this is where another piece of official Crowley myth falls right into place. After a frantic search, the manuscript is nowhere. But then, and the story here is a little too perfect, a workman doing repairs in the attic supposedly notices a loose floorboard. He pulls it up, and what's underneath? What else but the 65-page manuscript?
I thought he just happened to lose it.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
You don't just happen to lose it in a floorboard.
This is what is so
this is the gods putting it back.
Magical about it.
That's
Jesse.
why it's magic.
It's
Okay,
faded
all
like
right.
those plates that he pulled out of that yard that one time.
Right,
Oh,
the
that's a
golden
different
plates.
guy. Different guy.
Right, yeah.
Different guy.
Different
Gosh.
guy, but similar
Different guy.
situation.
Similar idea. Yeah, exactly. So of course, Crowley didn't see this as a lucky break. No, this was a miracle, a final magical sign that he was back on the path and that the secret chiefs were ready for him to begin. So in Crowley's mind, the rediscovery of the manuscript is anything but a coincidence. It's a miracle, and it's like the green stone, right? Like it fated to be found, fated to be used. Very similar to Sword in the Stone. That's how he starts kind of metaphorically looking at this book from this point on. And this is the moment where he finally surrenders. He's been backed in the corner, so fuck it. You might as well do it. And here's
So
I'm going to say this is another quote from supposedly from Crowley himself that kind of just perfectly encapsulates his attitude here. And I will have Alex now read this one.
I had been tempting the lightning for years. Now it had struck. My worldly reputation was shattered. My fortune was crumbling. My wife was in an asylum. My child was dead. I had to yield. Put myself, in my desperation, under the guidance of this book, the Book of the Law. And I said, let me see if this is all true. I will do my part of the bargain.
And with the manuscript back in his hands, something inside him shifts. The terror he felt in Cairo is gone, replaced by a new, cold sense of purpose. The world tried to break him, and it succeeded. But now he's putting the pieces back together into a totally new shape. This isn't Aleister Crowley, the rebellious poet, or the disgraced mountaineer anymore. No, this is a total rebrand. He is now the Master Therion. He is the great beast 666. He is the prophet of the new Aeon, and his mission is now crystal clear. He has to establish the law of Thelema on Earth.
It's so funny.
To do that,
It's just, sorry.
No, go on, please say.
This is like exactly the same course that Parsons' life took in like almost every way, like in a lot of different angles. Like he also was like, you know what? I'm the Antichrist now. Like I wrote a book of occultism now. You know, his wasn't a magically back after he found it, but similar situation.
Well, we'll learn more about their relationship in the not so far future, from Crowley's perspective, obviously. And his mission, obviously now clear, to establish law of Thelema on Earth. To do that, though, what does he need other than fucking any religion needs? He needs some followers. He needs people that will listen to him. He needs to build his own magical order, a new golden dawn, the one that serves the crowned and conquering child of the new age, not the dying god of the old one. Oof. The prophet was finally ready to preach. So Crowley returns to England a man possessed. The aimless wandering is over. The running is done. He has a divine, terrible mission. And the first thing a prophet needs is a school to train his upcoming disciples.
First thing you need is a school?
Yeah, like Professor X.
Okay,
right?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Right. But even a guy with an ego the size of a fucking planet knows he can't do it alone. If he just stands on a corner in London shouting, "I'm a prophet, worship my hawk-headed god," he's just going to get thrown in a padded cell like he did to his wife. To give his new order any kind of legitimacy, he needs an ally, a respected magician whose credibility is solid. So he goes right back to the beginning. He goes to the man who first opened the door to the magical world for him, his old mentor, George Cecil Jones. You have to imagine this scene. Like, in walks Crowley, the volatile prodigy of this guy who helped burn the Golden Dawn to the ground, showing up on his original teacher's doorstep. But he's not a student anymore. He arrives declaring himself a prophet, carrying a new holy book, and claiming a direct mandate from the secret chiefs. And Jones, who just had a few years earlier had dismissed a copy of this very book as unimportant, is now confronted with a totally transformed Crowley, a man just completely radiating with a new level of certainty and power about what he's about to do. So Crowley walks in and, I can imagine just smells of fucking ego, and pitches his old, cautious mentor on the idea of co-founding a new religion. It was, hey, there's an idea. I'm pitching an idea.
You know what? That'd be like if one of you two came to me and said, "No, for real. Okay, we're going to make a religion. Are you in?"
Alex did that. It's the 2013 compound.
No, that's just a cult. That's not a religion.
That's just a bit. that's not a real. There's no. You still have to pay taxes in real in like 2025.
Yeah.
Well, fair enough.
Actually, it'd be more like if I came to you guys and be like, "Have you ever heard of a space butterfly?" Because I'm letting you know
they're real.
I believe it's real.
Yeah.
How many of our listeners don't know that reference? I want to know.
I would wager enough do that I could start a cult.
Oh, absolutely.
For sure. I think enough do that you could relaunch that plushie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, and unsurprisingly, this was not an easy sell to Jones here.
You don't say.
No, but Crowley, dude, when he was on a mission, he was a fucking force of nature. Between his formidable, and he was a smart man, like his formidable intellect, the sheer power of his own conviction, whatever spooky shit Jones saw when he did his own magical background check on the situation, the old man was convinced eventually. George Cecil Jones agreed to co-found a new magical order with Aleister Crowley. This was a massive coup. Jones was a serious, respected magician. His involvement was like getting a good housekeeping seal of approval for Crowley's insane new venture. It gave him the legitimacy that he was now lacking because of all the fuck-ups he just endured. So, in 1907, they founded the A triangle mark.
I don't know.
It's
supposed to be like Alpha Delta?
No, it's
looks like this.
You've seen it.
I'm going to give you the full name.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you the full name. But that's how that's the look of what it looks like.
A Triforce.
Yeah, which this stands for Argentium Astrum, or Latin for the Silver Star. That is their order. The AA was this maybe not the greatest.
Not that AA.
Not that AA. That didn't exist back then. Alcohol wasn't a problem back then. Right. The AA was designed to be the ultimate magical curriculum. Like a kind of boot camp for magic people. Think like Harry Potter, but like capitalism. It was Crowley's attempt to build like a perfect, rational system for enlightenment, a new and improved golden dawn for his new aeon. And its motto kind of just said it all. The motto was the method of science, the aim of religion. That's it. Yeah, Jesse just looks like he got hit and he had to like process for a second.
I mean, so
that's fine. I know you understand.
Yeah, it seems like an impossibility because science is about constantly questioning and religion is about the power of belief and not questioning things. So like,
no, dude, we talk about people who believe in science. It's like a religion, dude. Like,
I mean, I think people believe in science that it will give answers if you keep asking questions. But the whole point is you keep asking questions and you never settle because there is no definitive answer. You're always looking for the next truth. While faith-based things, the truth is what is written and there is no other truth to look for.
Yeah, it almost comes off as like wild, like loyalty
to him. Don't question him.
But
believe completely in him, but also we're going to do it scientifically so it seems like we're smart. Does that make like it's the science of like we get to have it both ways. We have the belief of like unquestioning faith in me, but also I get to question the rest of the world.
I agree with how it's like you would interpret it, but I'm going to explain what he meant by this line because this like what he meant was magic was it's more about magic, right? Like magic wasn't supposed to be about blind faith. It was an experimental science of the soul in his head. Every student that would come in would have to learn ceremonial magic of all different types, from Kabbalistic practice all the way to yoga and meditation, like just the works. They had to learn all the different ones. And the single most important rule was that you had to keep a detailed magical diary and you were your own laboratory and your diary was your lab notebook. You had to record every ritual, every result, every weird dream, no matter how embarrassing or pointless it might seem. And Crowley remembered how the Golden Dawn had kind of like torn itself apart over petty squabbles about who had the bigger, more secret ritual. So he decided on a new strategy. He was going to just publish fucking everything. Starting in 1909, the AA began publishing a massively produced journal called The Equinox. And it was kind of like a bombshell dropped right in the middle of the quiet, secretive world of occultism at the time. In its pages, Crowley just started systematically publishing in plain English all the secret rituals, knowledge, and techniques of the Golden Dawn that he'd learned. He just it's like someone getting a hold of the Masonry like books or Scientology like lore or whatever, and then just putting it out there. He was basically like, a good way to think of him,
like publishing a book of magic tricks. Basically.
But to the occult world, he's like being a Snowden right now, or
I guess what I mean is all the magic tricks of all the magicians.
It's the mass magician. Yeah. It's the mass magician thing from the 90s.
Yeah, because he's giving away the keys of the kingdom.
Or I guess early 2000s, but yes.
Yes. Exactly that. His reasoning was simple, though. It was like the secrets he claimed protected themselves. You could give a man the blueprints for a nuclear reactor, but unless he's a brilliant physicist willing to do the hard work, they're just useless pieces of paper. And the mission statement in the very first issue is pure, uncut, arrogant Aleister Crowley. Here's what it said, Jesse, for you.
We have determined to publish the priceless treasures of which we are the guardians. We are not forcing them upon the world, but we are striking the shackles from the hands of the slaves. We are showing the royal road to the spiritual life. It is the only road. There is no other. We have brought the water of life from the well of the wise, and we are pouring it upon the sand.
Hell yeah.
And that's how, exactly. And that's how he basically felt about it out there. Like, fuck it.
Kind of punk. Like all my favorite movements in art kind of like start in a similar way.
Yeah. Yes. In his mind, he was like a liberator of human consciousness by doing this in a way. And with the AA and the Equinox, Crowley was no longer now a lone wolf. He was the public leader of a new magical movement, as small as it may be to start. He had an order, a holy book, and now a public voice. And he was about to use it to pick one last epic fucking magic fight with the man who had started him on his path in the first place. By publishing all of the Golden Dawn secrets, he wasn't just sharing knowledge. he was committing the ultimate act of betrayal against his former master, S.L. McGregor Mathers. And this is the guy who he wrestled with in the hallway. Mathers, who considered the Golden Dawn's teachings his personal intellectual property, was, to put it mildly, fucking enraged. He saw Crowley's actions as a declaration of magical war. And a magical war is what he fucking got.
Hell yes. Let's go.
The conflict was fought on two fronts. The first one was the important but boring one, the courts of London, where Mathers sued Crowley to try and get an injunction to stop the publication of the Equinox. The second battle, which secretly, according to Crowley, was the one fought with curses on the astral plane. And that one was far more vicious. So Mathers, sitting in his apartment in Paris, is fucking fuming. And according to Crowley, he decides to do a lot more than just sue. With this full-scale magic assault, he tries to ruin this man's life. This was a wizarding duel to the death in his mind. Crowley and his students started reporting all sorts of spooky phenomena that began happening.
Bad headache.
They claimed they were being attacked by terrifying astral entities, like a magical DDoS attack, I guess. They told stories of poltergeist activity, of strange unnatural winds blowing through the sealed rooms, and the constant oppressive feeling of being watched by something nasty. But Aleister Crowley does not play defense. His philosophy was always the best defense is a ludicrously oversized offense, basically. So in 1910, he and his star pupil at the time, a young poet named Victor Newberg, decided to fucking go magically nuclear. In their temple, they performed a massive and dangerous ceremony, the evocation of Bartzabel, the spirit of Mars. Now, think of Bartzabel as the magical equivalent of the god of war, a famously aggressive entity embodying all the fiery, violent energy of Mars. The plan was to summon this thing into their temple and then aim it like a magic heat-seeking missile with the coordinates set from McGregor Mathers' apartment in Paris. Crowley claimed that the ritual was a terrifying success and that the magical fallout was immense. But the war also had a much pettier and kind of frankly more bizarre side. This brings us to one of the weirdest stories in Crowley's entire career, the Battle of the Frogs.
It sounds like a chapter from like A Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah,
it
kind of.
Definitely isn't going to be like one.
A smaller house fighting for like independence against the empire or something. No, it's probably not. So this story obviously is probably exaggerated by Crowley for effect, but the legend goes Mathers supposedly sent a threatening psychic message to Crowley in the middle of the night, I'm guessing. Crowley, in a fit of high magical peak, in a fit of high magical peak mixed with a pure childish spite, decided to retaliate with a bit of folk magic. He went to a pond, caught a bunch of frogs, and then brought them back to his temple. He then performed a ceremony where he solemnly baptized each frog with the name McGregor Mathers, and then, after they were baptized under that name, crucified each one of them on tiny little frog-sized crosses, and then cursed them as they were being crucified on the cross.
How long did that fucking take him?
Hours, I'm guessing.
How do you do all that and not go like, what am I doing?
Dude, I think like if he starts asking what I'm doing now, it's too late.
You're right.
He's too deep, dude. He had a fucking psychic magic war with like counter spells. It's like one part high ceremony magic, one part elaborate ritual, and it just completely cruel to the animals. The war finally came to a head, though not in a magical duel, but in the courtroom. The judge, in a moment of pure, glorious British common sense, essentially threw the whole case out. He ruled that since Mathers claimed to have received the rituals from spirits, he couldn't possibly claim copyright over them in a human court. You can't sue on behalf of a ghost. It was basically an entire public humiliation for Mathers. Mathers lost spectacularly, and Crowley had won decisively.
That was the War of the Frogs? He just crucified a bunch of frogs?
He crucified a bunch of frogs.
Okay, well, that's
Probably
fucked up. That's fucked up.
Maybe
doesn't sound that much like a war, but okay.
That's a battle of the frogs.
Yeah,
Battle of the frogs.
sure.
He had beaten his old master in court and in his own mind had utterly vanquished him on the astral plane. The student had officially surpassed the master, very Sith-like. With the war against Mathers won, Crowley, now in his mid-30s, entered a new phase. He's still younger than all of us, basically. He was no longer just a rebel. He was a leader and now a guru. He was the master Therion, and he started attracting a circle of devoted, if often eccentric, students. His journal, The Equinox, was now the most famous and infamous occult publication in the world. He was, for the first time, the undisputed central figure of the English occult magic scene. And it was because of this newfound notoriety that in 1912, he got an unexpected visitor, a man named Theodor Rius, the head of a German magical fraternity called the Ordo Templi Orientis, or
O.T.O.
the O.T.O.
They're here.
Yeah, that may sound familiar to a lot of people.
They're here.
And he traveled all the way to London just to confront Crowley because Rius was fucking furious. He accused Crowley of publishing the single most important and secret teaching of the O.T.O's highest, most secret degree. He claimed Crowley had exposed their ultimate mystery to the public. Crowley was completely baffled. He insisted he knew next to nothing about the O.T.O, let alone its deepest secrets. And he asked Rius to show him where exactly in all of his writings he had supposedly given the game away. And Rius pointed to a specific, seemingly obscure passage in one of Crowley's books. And so Rius points to this one obscure passage in one of Crowley's books, and Crowley reads it. And in that moment, the penny kind of drops. The great, ultimate, super secret mystery at the heart of the Ordo Templi Orientis was something that Crowley didn't openly talk about beyond this one offhanded mention. Sex magic. Basically, the theory and practice of using sexual energy, and yes, the actual physical fluids produced during the sexual act as a kind of magical gasoline, right? We talked about it in the Chaos Magic series in this way too. This is where it all comes from. It was a way to fuel your rituals, consecrate talismans, achieve visions, manifest your will on earth, etc., etc. And now, because this one little line was in a book that he mentioned sex magic, the O.T.O was convinced that he's had stolen their sex magic and published it out for other people to read, which is a very weird jump to take, but it's the one he fucking took. And now, confronted with the accusation that he stole the secret, Crowley comes back with the most astonishing and frankly convenient defense imaginable. And this is Crowley's version of the story, so you just got to take it with a grain of salt. He looks at Rius and basically says, I didn't steal your secret. I discovered it all by myself through my own
masturbation,
personal research.
Yeah.
Yeah, by fucking sex magic, which I would believe.
Turns out
this dude is
sex really rules. And
it's pretty magical.
Yeah. He's like, actually, like, sex is, like, that's exactly how I see it as well. Like, but again, it's early 1900 Victorian mindset, like talking about sex magic in a publication, even an offhanded comment, is like alarming to people. Like, it does, like, it pulled attention. So the fact that, he approached it and whatever, but I agree. It's exactly that. He was doing magical experimentation. It's very clear he's been doing it his whole life. At some point, he's like, sex is kind of sick. Can I do cool. Sex and magic?
I gotta say, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I want to do sex and magic.
Like we've said in past episodes, this is strong. Like, how can I get girls to have sex with me? Vibes. Like, what?
Yeah,
like, yeah. Oh yeah, no, it's magic, baby. It's magic.
Life out of it for a while. Like,
girl, my dick is magic. Like, this is the vibe, dude. Here.
That's the magic. My magic wand is my dick. Yeah,
that's literally part of it. That's actually not even no joke. That's part of it. Yeah,
we'll get there. We'll get there. So he claimed he arrived at the same exact conclusion completely independently, and he thought it was his own little discovery. And because he's Aleister Crowley, he just immediately published it for the world to see, never imagining it was some central doctrine of some obscure German secret society. And Rius is just floored at this. His brain does a complete 180. He thinks there is no way this arrogant Englishman could have just stumbled upon our highest secret by accident. He must be He must be a true spiritual master, an adept so powerful he received knowledge directly from the secret chiefs themselves.
Of course.
He just fucking's like, oh, well then obviously you're just secret chief.
Yeah.
That's like and we were talking about the Rapture people earlier today. Like they just flipped it around. He's like, oh, okay, so you're a secret chief then. Sorry, I need water in my throat. Yeah, like far from remaining enemies, Rios immediately starts treating Crowley like a long lost brother. And this whole bizarre, angry confrontation ends with an even more bizarre offer. Rios, now totally convinced of Crowley's genius, appoints him as the National Grandmaster, General of the O.T.O. for all of Great Britain and Ireland.
That doesn't even make fucking sense, bro. But it's happened to him now twice. So
I know,
and it happened to Parsons.
I know. We'll get there. He was given the cool new title of Baphomet and was basically handed the keys to the entire English-speaking branch of the order. He was literally just given control of the English branch of the order. It's fucking crazy. And through a complete and utter accident, Aleister Crowley had just fucking failed upwards into becoming the leader of a second major international magical organization. Like, God, it reminds me of cult leaders when they absorb falling apart cults. Do you remember when we talked about in the Ugandan cult, when we did that episode on the Ugandan cult tragedy, how that guy absorbed a smaller cult as like their leader? They just came because they still needed to be in a cult, I guess. And it just fucking inflates his numbers, inflating his ego and but it does truly give him more power and reach. And the first thing he does with this new toy is completely gut it and rebuild it in his own image. He just fucking takes the O.T.O. and is like, well, mine now. And he saw the O.T.O. as the perfect public-facing vehicle for the Book of the Law. He rewrote its rituals, its constitution, its teachings to be in perfect alignment with his new religion, Thelema. Under Crowley, the O.T.O. Was to become the official church of this new law. And now his grand strategy was complete. He had two organizations, each with a different purpose. First, you had the AA. That was the spiritual core of this whole shtick. It was the lonely, difficult, solitary path of the mystic and the monk.
That was like his crew. Yeah.
Yes. A hardcore system for individual spiritual attainment. Think of it as like magical special forces. Then you had the O.T.O. This was the outer social body of this construct. It was a fraternal organization with lodges, degrees, and social events designed to spread the law of the do what thou wilt to a wider, more worldly audience. This was the regular army, the public face of the movement. And we can even look back at Heaven's Gate, what we recently did, where they created their little blitz campaigns of going in, giving speech one, which was the outer version of the speech, easier to digest, easier to hang on to. Right. And if you came back and stuck around, you got the more hardcore version of their practices. And this is how directly how Crowley himself described the O.T.O.'s more practical applications for Jesse to read. Yeah, I know.
The O.T.O. is a body of initiates in whose hands are concentrated the wisdom and knowledge of the following bodies. It represents a serious effort to organize the elite of humanity, to bring the world to the knowledge of the law of Thelema. The order is, in fact, a training school for men and women of the wizarding world of Harry Potter.
Yeah, it's a training school for men and women of the wizarding world of Harry Potter. Mm-hmm. He was building a magical version of the Freemasons or the Elks Lodge with a whole lot more sex and a hawk-headed war god. By 1914, Aleister Crowley was at the absolute apex of his career. He was the undisputed leader of the English occult scene, the master of 2 international magical orders, and the celebrated prophet of a revolutionary new law, and he had just built his church, and then the world fucking caught on fire. Because when the Great War erupted across Europe in August of 1914, most people saw it as a political catastrophe. Crowley saw it as divine confirmation. The blood and fire that were about to consume a generation were, in his mind, the literal fulfillment of the prophecies in the Book of the Law that he wrote in 1904. This was the violent, messy birth of the Aeon of Horus, just as the ghost of Aeos had foretold. So, while the young men of Britain were flocking to enlist and fight for king and country, their great occult prophet did something different. He packed his bags and on October of 1914, boarded a ship to the U.S. He got the fuck out. And on the surface, this looks fucking super cowardly. The British press and his many enemies immediately branded him as a traitor and a pro-German, a reputation that would stick to him for the rest of his life. And the more mundane truth is that he was also in serious financial trouble. His family fortune had been so wildly mismanaged, and for the first time in his life, Crowley was going broke. He saw America as the land of opportunity. And I think a mix of cowardice because of the law of the war and also because he was running out of money, he arrived in New York and settled into the bohemian world of Greenwich Village. But the plan didn't quite work out.
How old was he during this?
Mid-30s.
Okay.
So like me.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you're you're like your age.
Yeah, I'm the youngest.
For sure. Of the three of us, for sure.
I'm the youngest person on the internet.
And the whole internet.
Yeah, this boy alive.
We're kind of immortal on the internet if you think about it.
Yes.
The Laird of Boleskine was gone and replaced by a struggling writer living in cheap boarding houses. He tried to establish himself as a guru, but the American occult scene was largely unimpressed with him. He was just a nobody. Nobody gave a fucking shit. And it was here, broke and adrift in New York, that he began the most controversial political chapter of his life. He started writing propaganda for the Germans.
Whoops.
Whoopsie. He got a job at a pro-German, anti-British magazine called The Fatherland.
Whoops.
Churning out violently anti-British articles. He praised German militarism, mocked the monarchy, and called for an Irish rebellion. On the face of it, this was just straight up treason. Whoops, as Alex might say.
Whoopsie.
But this is Aleister Crowley, so it's never really that simple. His defense, which he maintained until he died, is that the whole thing was a sham. And this is a huge. I just need you to know this part of his life. This is his
podcasting phase.
Oh yeah,
where he started his occult podcast. By the end of it, he was like, you know what, fascism isn't so bad.
He said the N-word on there a couple times. They came after him a couple years later. He was like, no.
What do you mean?
But
anyway, we're having Hitler on next week. I've got questions. Hey, Hitler, you ever do drugs? What was it like to get high, man?
Would it surprise you to tell you that later on in his life, Aleister supposedly maybe actually did work for a government?
I believe you because I know what you're going to say.
Pipeline, right? Yeah. Podcaster to government pipeline.
Maybe that's what we're doing. Do you ever think about that?
That's what we've been trying to
find. Maybe that's what the whole Canyon series was about,
cool, dude.
No,
we're way too hip and cool.
Come on.
But this part of his life that we're about to get into is a hugely contested part of his life that historians still debate about the merits of today, because he claimed he was, in fact, working as a secret agent for British intelligence. That his mission, he said, was to infiltrate the German propaganda machine and destroy it from the inside through pure ridicule. He would write articles that were so over the top, so absurdly and cartoonishly evil in their pro-German sentiment that they would backfire, discrediting the German cause in the eyes of the still neutral American public. That he wasn't a traitor, he was a patriotic troll working for the crown. He was a 4chaner working against the
patriotic troll is the saddest, most pathetic thing I've ever heard. Doesn't matter what time period.
That's what they keep telling us shoots everybody before they find out it was really some fucking right-wing person.
Right, exactly, dude.
It's probably a patriotic, democratic, leftist troll.
Yeah, obviously woke did it. But the evidence, the issue with him why it's debated is the evidence is still very, very insanely ambiguous because there's no smoking gun document. Otherwise it'd be settled. No pay stub from MI6 or anything. But the sheer absurdity of some of his articles is really hard to explain otherwise. For example, in one famous article, Crowley advised the German Navy to start sinking passenger ships without warning, especially they should start doing it on neutral American ones. Why? Because the resulting, quote, outburst of virile indignation would be, in his words, better than 1,000 German victories. He was literally advocating for the sinking of the Lusitania, but framing it in a way that sounded like a diabolical plot that could only serve to awaken the sleeping giant of American America against Germany.
He basically predicted
weird.
Pearl Harbor, kind of.
Yeah. Now, obviously, was that genuine treason? Was it a brilliant piece of reverse psychological propaganda of the entire war? Probably not. The historians like Richard B. Spence have made a compelling, although circumstantial case.
I literally just point to him climbing a mountain and be like, no, he definitely meant kill those people on the boats.
Right.
Like this guy in the mountain was like, screw the weak. Who cares about these porters? Let them die. Anyway, I said that about them because I was trying to like mess with Big Mountain.
Yeah. Big Mountain got so faced by that, bro.
I showed them.
Yeah. Like I said, the one historian that could find that really presents a pretty compelling but still circumstantial case is Richard B. Spence. But like, there's no way to know. And I'm still more on the side that I think he was just like, he just spins his failures to successes whenever he can. While this whole spy versus traitor drama was unfolding, though, his magical work still continued. He spent time living as a hermit on an island in the Hudson fucking River, performing rituals and painting the core tenets of Thelema on the rocks. Like,
cool, man.
That's what he was doing when he wasn't at work writing German articles.
Neat, dude.
Cool.
When the war finally ended in 1918, he was left in America, his reputation in England now more toxic than ever. And when Aleister Crowley finally returned to England in 1919, there was no hero's welcome. He was a pariah. His work for German propaganda publications during the war had cemented his reputation as a traitor in England, and his already scandalous personal life made him a tabloid villain. He was broke, infamous, and for a man who craved disciples, largely alone. But he hadn't been idle in America. Amidst the poverty and the spy games, he had found the one thing he believed he needed to reignite his prophetic mission. He had found his Scarlet Woman. The first Scarlet Woman, specifically.
His first Scarlet Woman. How fucking funny.
This him returning to England in 1919, by the way, to me is evidence he left England because of the war.
Oh, 100%.
He was just like,
now,
bye.
The concept of the Scarlet Woman is central to the Thelema religion. You have to understand this. This is not skippable this will be on the test at the end. She's not just a girlfriend or a sidekick. She is a specific magical office, we'll call it. The earthly incarnation of the goddess Babylon, the consort and counterpart to the beast 666. To get the world-changing magic done, the beast needs his Babylon. And Crowley is the beast, and lacking the Scarlet Woman meant he couldn't do his world-changing magic completely.
He's gotta have a babe, dude.
He's got to have a fucking babe. And Crowley believed he had found her in a Swiss-American school teacher named Leah Hersig. Leah had been drawn into his circle in New York, and her interest quickly intensified into a white-hot devotion to him. She was intelligent, intense, and utterly committed to Crowley's vision through this thing. And through a series of rituals, he formally consecrated her as his Scarlet Woman, giving her the magical name Aleister. Sorry, I'm pronouncing it wrong.
Like an elf queen?
Like, here you go.
Oh, cool, man.
Aleister.
Or someone from, what's that show? Or I guess it's actually the comic, but the one with the Morpheus.
Sandman.
Yeah, Sandman. Exactly. It's definitely a Sandman character. Yeah.
Aleister.
The rituals included a lot of like channeling beings, a lot of hours of doing like precise movements around an engram on the ground, blood drawing, and a fuck ton of sex mixed into it, like just constantly throughout it. And with his prophesized partner finally by his side, he felt his mission kicking back into high gear. It was no longer enough just to write about Thelema. It was time to build a living, breathing laboratory for it, for like the third time. He envisioned a new kind of community, this magical college again, or anti-monastery, where the law of do without wilt could be lived in its purest form. And he would call this place the Abbey of Thelema. Looking for a location that was cheap, remote, and far from the prying eyes of the English authorities, he settled on the island of Sicily. In 1920, with Leah Hersig and their newborn daughter, he rented a small, single-story stone farmhouse on a hillside overlooking the ancient fishing village of Cefalu. this rustic sun-baked and by honestly all accounts deeply unsanitary villa would become the most famous and infamous magical commune of the 20th century. Life at the Abbey was a bizarre experiment in contradictions. On one hand, it was a place of intense spiritual discipline. The day was often structured around sun adorations, yoga, meditation, and then complex magical rituals with Crowley as the head abbot training his disciples. But on the other hand, it was also a place of absolute unrestrained personal freedom, which often looked a lot like pure hedonistic chaos. The only rule, again, was do what thou wilt. This meant that all sexual expression was considered sacred. Drug use, particularly heroin, cocaine, and opium, was rampant through this place. Treated not just recreationally, but these drugs were treated as a sacrament, a chemical key to unlocking consciousness. And heroin and cocaine sounds like the worst possible things so you'd want to do to fucking explore your consciousness. But what do I know? I've only done fucking...
Like maybe consciousness has been like much less explored at that time in general. So maybe they just like need to go. Maybe nobody had ever gone buck wild like that on that stuff.
I say that about all the terrible things I do too. Yeah, like
yeah, exactly.
I ate those 2 chili cheese burritos from Taco Bell yesterday to enlighten my consciousness.
I did that too. Just so you know. So
I should do that before I met
you. Not because I got caught up in the moment and ordered 2 chili cheese burritos and didn't care that later that would be a problem. No.
The real question is, did you get a caramel apple empanada as well?
First off, absolutely.
Yeah,
let's not pretend. That was my order. Not smart. I just ordered off that special menu.
Yeah, decades, baby.
Decades menu, baby.
Yeah, dude.
Little brandy over Taco Bell in the middle of your Crowley.
Talk about blow your ass out.
Yeah, for his house, which was now the temple, the centerpiece of the house was the temple, rather, which Crowley called the Chambre de Cauchemar, or Room of Nightmares. He personally covered the walls in his own art, a series of vibrant, explicit, and often terrifying murals depicting the gods and demons of Thelema intertwined in sex, birth, and death. It was very psychedelic, pornographic, magical manifesto painted directly onto the house itself. Did you see the new Superman?
Oh, yeah.
You know that when they're doing the Hall of Justice and they got that painting at the top of like the history of superheroes?
Yes. Yeah.
It's like that for Thelema.
Okay. Like a beautiful illustrative tapestry.
Yeah, but it's less like in the movie and more like, I don't know, you went on Rule 34 and you typed in mural at Hall of Justice, Superman 2025, Rule 34, and then it's just, and they're all just banging.
It'd be way closer to that. You're completely correct. Mm-hmm. If you want, the sales pitch for this thing, this is an expert. I'm going to let you read this, Alex. This is an excerpt from a letter written by one of his most famous disciples, a man by the name Raoul Loveday. And this I love it. This is like what the Abbey was kind of like. It's like a sales pitch of the Abbey.
The Abbey of Thelema is a house, my dear, where each person does his or her own will. The work is a training of the mind, and I am the most devoted of all the pupils of the master. Here we do not talk, we act. We do not believe, we know. I am, in fact, a kind of novice in a new and better sort of religion. There you go. That's the pitch for fucking joining the Abbey. Nice and idyllic, right? Hell yeah. But obviously, this idyllic place wasn't super idyllic. The house was filthy. The residents were often malnourished and high on something or mixes of stuff. And the constant psychological pressure, and this sounds like a little Manson-y, right? And the constant psychological pressure of living under the thumb of a guru as powerful, mean, and manipulative as Crowley could be took a toll on these people. The Abbey was a beacon for seekers, but it was a dream on the verge of becoming a nightmare. Because remember, he named it the Room of Nightmares. And in 1922, the couple who would prove to be the catalyst for the Abbey's complete destruction arrived from England. Their names were, from the letter initially, Raoul Loveday and his wife, Betty May, which is not, a name that feels like belongs in Thelema at this place.
Raoul was the archetypical Crowley disciple. He was a brilliant, handsome, idealistic young man from Oxford who had discovered Crowley's journal, The Equinox, and became completely enchanted. He said Crowley as he saw Crowley as a true guru and the Abbey as the gateway to enlightenment, like real true believer stuff. And his wife, Betty May, however, was not a true believer. But she was a vivacious former nightclub dancer, far more worldly and pragmatic than her husband. And she was deeply skeptical of Crowley, seeing him as a manipulative charlatan. And she was immediately horrified by what she found in Sicily when they went. In her eyes, the Abbey was no holy place. This was a filthy, dilapidated farmhouse where people were just fucking and doing drugs in. Okay. The residents were not enlightened addicts at all. They were just a collection of drug-addled, malnourished weirdos under the thumb of this charismatic tyrant.
Can we just really quickly talk about the fact that it took a nightclub dancer who I guarantee
always see the world as it is, though.
She was probably hot, dude. She was probably hot.
Like it took her, a person who very clearly has dealt with like dudes being too drunk, or the nightlife of a big city, or other dancers being on drugs, or whatever. Like, she has real world experience, not like a rich kid pretending to be into, magic. She lived a life, had like some like school of hard knocks learning, and walked in this room and was like, this is some bitch shit. Like, she looked at it, was
0.2 seconds and was like, this is some garbage.
That. I think that's amazing.
She just was like, this is so stupid. It's always the wife of like a believer to be like, what are you doing, dude? Yeah. Like, what is going on?
Yeah, I think that's so funny that it took like the realest person in the room to be like, grow up. Seriously? This is what we're doing?
Yep. I love it so goddamn much. Obviously, the tension was fucking immediate. Loveday threw himself, though, into the grueling magical regimen with the fervor of a true believer, a convert, taking drugs and following Crowley's every command. Betty May just looked on with growing horror as the days passed. The most infamous story from this period comes directly from her later tell-all expose. According to her, there was a ritual in which her husband, Raoul, was allegedly made to sacrifice a cat as an offering to the sun. Now, this is Betty's version, and she had every reason to make Crowley look as monstrous as possible, but I fully believe it's true. It gives you kind of a taste of the stories that kind of would be starting to emerge out of the household into rumors amongst the public. Life at the Abbey was obviously also taking a physical toll. The diet was poor, the sanitation was non-existent, and the drug use was constant. And in the winter of 1923, Raoul Loveday weakened from his lifestyle, drank from a contaminated mountain spring, and fell violently ill with what was likely acute enteric fever.
Damn.
A disease that is similar to typhoid.
Jesus.
This was crazy. The kind of
that's a cowboy death right there. Yeah, that's like
died on the Oregon Trail kind of shit.
Yeah, exactly. This was a crisis point for them. A proper doctor likely could have saved him if early enough. But Crowley, obviously, in his huge ego and his magical arrogance, believed that all illness had a spiritual root and discouraged modern medicine. So instead of taking Loveday to a hospital, Crowley treated him with his own brand of magical healing, performing rituals at his bedside as the young man's condition grew progressively worse.
Love that. Love that.
It's kind of like what Tim Apple did. Not Tim Apple, though. You know what I mean.
Tim Apple.
The guy who created Apple.
Steve Jobs?
Steve Jobs. Thank you very much.
His whole thing was true. I'll figure out a way to do this without medicine, and then he just died.
Bugs crashing your pack's party? Whether they've got paws or sneakers, your pack deserves a home that's protected from pests. That's where Wonderside comes in. Plant-powered protection made with steam-distilled natural essential oils that actually work. It kills and repels fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, and ants without questionable ingredients or overpowering smells. Safe to use around kids and pets when used as directed. Lab-proven to work fast. And proudly made in the USA. We offer sprays for pets, people, homes, and yards. Plus, spot-on treatments, collars, and even shampoos. Whatever your pack needs, we've got it covered. Founded by a pet parent looking for a better way to protect her dog Luna, Wonderside's now protected over 21 million lives and counting. You might have even seen us on Shark Tank. Go to Wonderside.com and use code WONDER20 for 20% off your first order. That's WONDER20 at Wonderside.com. Wonderside. Protect your pack with plant-powered Wonderside today.
Hi, I'm Paula Zahn, announcing the launch of On the Case, the podcast. Experience the most dramatic true crime investigations in a whole new way. Hear from loved ones on a relentless quest for justice and interviews with the detectives who piece together the mystery. On the Case with Paula Zahn, the podcast, premiering Wednesday, October 1st. Download it wherever you listen to podcasts.
On February 16th, 1923, Raoul Loveday died in agony in the Abbey. Betty May who stuck with him the entire time, was now grieving after being traumatized, and a terrified widow. She just immediately fled back to England with a story to tell everybody. And she found a very willing audience in the sensationalist British tabloids, of course. She sold her story to the Sunday Express, which for the next several weeks ran a series of lurid, explosive articles exposing the satanic secrets of Crowley's sex death cult in Sicily. And the stories were a perfect storm of public outrage, filled with tales of black magic, forced drug addiction, and sexual depravity. And they were almost certainly exaggerated, but they were based on a kernel of truth that made them all the more terrifying. This media firestorm is what permanently cemented Crowley's public image as the wickedest man in the world. And this is an actual, Jesse, in your best transatlantic accent. Mm-hmm. This is a headline from that time about what was going on there.
New sin in Sicily! English girl's story of a monster! Orgies in Abbey.
Splashing right on the toilet. Yeah. Oh, shit. This scandal became an international incident. The stories of a depraved English cult practicing black magic on Italian soil eventually reached the ears of Italy's new leader at the time, a man obsessed with projecting an image of a clean, orderly, and morally superior and upright new Roman Empire, Benito Mussolini.
Hey, the other Hitler.
Yeah. He was not amused. He saw Crowley's Abbey as a stain on his new fascist Italy, a den of foreign degeneracy that had to be purged. In April of 1923, the Italian government issued a deportation order. Aleister Crowley and his remaining followers were formally and unceremoniously expelled from Sicily.
Kind of badass to get thrown out by Mussolini. I got to say it. I'll say it again.
Getting thrown out by Mussolini for having a sex cult.
Yeah,
dude.
it's kind of
badass.
Kind of hardcore. Yeah.
It's kind of sick.
Yeah.
The great experiment, though, with that was over. And the Abbey of Thelema, this quote unquote utopian community that was meant to be the cradle of a new civilization, was unceremoniously shut down. The walls, covered in their pornographic magic murals painted by Crowley himself, were whitewashed by the horrified locals. And Crowley was once again an outcast, but this time he wasn't just a pariah in the small world of occultism. He was now an international villain. The dream had died, and the beast was once again a wanderer. The expulsion from Sicily marked the beginning of a long and very slow decline for him. For the better part of the next decade, Crowley drifted through Tunisia, France, and Germany, often broke and in failing health. But this was not a period of inactivity either for him. After the spectacular public failure of trying to live Thelema, Crowley turned inward. He dedicated himself to building the intellectual and theological foundation of his new religion still. It was during these years of exile that he wrote some of his most important works. He began his massive autobiography, which is one of the sources that we're using, The Confessions, a monumental attempt to seize control of his own narrative, his own rebranding, as I talked about in the first episode in a lot of ways. He was no longer just like a prophet. He was now becoming, in his mind, a theologian, the St. Paul to his own strange Christ. Well,
the St. Paul to his
really
own strange Christ is another great image to think about.
Yeah, but it's true. Like, that's how I saw it, like in my mind. And while Crowley is wandering around Europe, broke and infamous, he's starting to think about his legacy. He gets obsessed with this prophecy in the Book of the Law that talks about a magical child who would further his mission. He needs an heir, and for a while, he believes he's found him in an unassuming accountant from Vancouver, Canada. This guy's name was Charles Stansfeld Jones, who went by the magical name Frater Akkad. In 1916, while studying the Book of the Law, Akkad believed he had a massive breakthrough. He did some complex Kabbalistic analysis and claimed he had discovered the book's secret key. He excitedly wrote to Crowley to announce his discovery. And Crowley was absolutely electrified by getting this letter. He saw this not as a student's interpretation, but as a divinely inspired confirmation that he was still doing the right thing. This quiet, brilliant man in Crowley's mind in Canada, he believed, was the prophesized child that he'd been looking for. Crowley officially hailed Frater Akkad as the magical son and heir of the Beast 666. And here's a diary entry from the time that Crowley talks about how excited he is about this. Alex, all you.
The key to the whole riddle has been found. This child, Fra Akkad, has been the seer. I'm quite overwhelmed by this stupendous and terrifying truth. This is the most important event in the history of the planet for probably 10,000 years.
Which is, around agriculture wheel, that kind of thing. I wouldn't, I don't agree with him, but hey, to each their own. A Canadian accountant doing magic math, dude. That's what we're looking at here. The man had absolutely no chill. He like almost every close relationship in Crowley's life, it was destined, obviously, to end in a bitter divorce, too. Because as time went on, Frater Akkad's own journey began to diverge from Crowley's. He started developing his own interpretations and even claimed to have ushered in his own new aeon, because of course he fucking did. And obviously for Crowley, like every goddamn thing else in his life, this was an intolerable betrayal. There was only one prophet of the aeon, him. The sun was now a rival. And in a fit of rage, Crowley turned on the man he had once hailed as his divine successor. He officially excommunicated him, denounced him as a black magician, and declared him a demented drone and a total failure. It was a tragic and repeating pattern at this point. Crowley desperately craved a true partner, but his fucking huge ego could not tolerate anyone who might one day challenge his authority. And it kind of sounds, honestly, very familiar to the narcissists in power today. The egos are in the same room for too long. They start fucking fighting with each other and have fallouts. And this toxic pattern of needing a partner while also needing to completely dominate them was never clearer than the man who was arguably his most important magical partner ever, a young poet named Victor Newburgh. Newburgh was, in a lot of ways, the perfect Crowley disciple. Brilliant, sensitive guy from Cambridge, captivated by Crowley's charisma. Their first meeting is like a classic anecdote from Crowley, there where, upon being introduced to the young poet, immediately challenged him to a magical contest to see who could write the better poem to the god Mercury. And Newburgh, from that moment on, was hooked. Their relation, that's all it took, dude. Want to have a magic poem battle? Best
Fuck
poem
yeah,
to
brother.
Mercury.
Did we just become best friends?
I think we just became best friends. And they just start angrily writing. Their relationship was intense, productive, often incredibly cruel too. Crowley saw Newburgh as a powerful natural psychic, like seeing eye dog for magical exploration in a way. But Crowley's training often resembled outright sadistic abuse. He would force Newburgh into grueling exercises that would exhaust him, humiliate him in public time and again, and push him to the brink of his sanity, all under the guise of breaking down his ego. Together, they decided they were ready for the ultimate magical challenge. In the Kabbalistic system, there's a great, terrifying gulf that separates the world of man from the world of the divine. This gulf is called the abyss. This also exists in Vampire the Masquerade, is the same kind of thing. To cross it is the most dangerous trial a magician can undertake. To succeed, you must confront and master the dweller in that gulf, a demonic entity that represents pure, mindless chaos and disintegration. And the demon's name is Choronzon, or Choronzon. Choronzon, however say that name right there.
Choronzon.
Choronzon's only purpose is to shatter your ego and disperse your consciousness into a meaningless void. To face him is to face total annihilation of the self. And Crowley decided it was time. In November, he and Victor Newburgh would travel into the Sahara Desert, the physical embodiment of the abyss, if you ask me, and they would summon this demon into a physical vessel. And this was not like a theatrical exercise to them. This was the magical equivalent of trying to wrestle with like a fucking black hole. Here is Crowley's own description of the entity that they were about to willingly invite into their presence for Jesse to read. You love this shit. You know you do.
The name of the dweller in the abyss is Corazon, but he is not really an individual. The abyss is empty of being. It is filled with all possible forms, each equally devoid of substance. And so, each evil in the only true sense of the word, that is, meaningless but malignant insofar as it craves to become real.
A lot of stuff is meaningless but malignant.
Yeah, exactly. In other words, he's basically saying it's not a who, it's a what. Embodiment of pure meaningless chaos, a cosmic kind of cancer that just wants to become real by tearing down everything that has meaning. And in November, Aleister and Victor are deep in the Sahara Desert near Bou Saada in Algeria. I'm sorry, I'm butchering that shit. This is their temple. The setup is simple. Newberg, the gifted psychic, is the vessel. He is going to sit inside a magical triangle drawn in the sand, the designated parking spot for manifesting the spirit, and offers himself up for the demon to possess. Crowley, the master magician that he is, sits outside in the protective circle, armed with his holy book and his dagger. His job is to summon the demon, control it, interrogate it, and then
slit its throat.
Well, banish it. Close enough. So you got the scene of two men alone in the middle of the largest desert on earth. One is about to willingly, in his mind, let himself be possessed by the ultimate demon of chaos, while the other prepares to confront it with nothing but a circle in the sand for protection. And the stakes were absolute. Failing this is instant death. So, in the vast emptiness, Crowley began the ritual. He stood within his protective circle and started chanting the Enochian calls, which is a strange kind of guttural, angelic language that was said to open the gates between worlds. He was calling to the home of Corazon. According to his magical record, the effects were immediate and terrifying. First, the demon manifested through Nurburg's mouth, but the voice of Corazon wasn't some single booming demonic tone. It was a torrent of chaos. It would flatter Crowley one moment and spit vile insults the next. It would speak profound philosophical truths and then immediately follow them with complete gibberish. It was a voice of pure dispersion, and its only goal was to break Crowley's concentration and shatter his mind. Here is a direct account of the demon's words, spoken through Newberg as Crowley transcribed them. So who wants to be, I'm going to let you choose. Who wants to be the demon?
I want to be the demon.
Oh, shit.
There you go.
Okay.
That's what you need to see. Your demon being channeled through Nurburg.
I am a mighty serpent, and my name is Babylon. O thou that art so beautiful, come unto me. All is joy. I am the lust, and the joy, and the bliss, and the disillusion. But I am not I. I am not. I am all. Oh, I am a wicked courtesan. I have no soul. I will get out of the triangle and have you. I am a beautiful girl. I want you. I am a fool. Ha ha ha.
I love the idea of like this poet Newberg's being like, I am a beautiful girl and I want you. Just like at Crowley, and Crowley just standing there like, back, demon, back, I say.
He's like,
did.
Yeah.
Lightning bolt, lightning bolt.
Vampire!
Fireball.
Magic missile.
The demon then began a full-scale psychological assault, taunting Crowley with his deepest insecurities and failures, trying to lure him out of the circle with promises of ultimate power. All the while, the physical body of Victor Newberg was writhing in the sand, his face contorting into 1,000 different shapes, and then the attack became physical. The possessed body of Newberg grabbed handfuls of sand and began throwing it at the circle.
Pocket sand.
At the circle. Pocket sanding the circle itself, trying to erase the protective line. Now, according to the laws of magic, if that line is broken, the magician is then left completely exposed. The demon screamed through Newberg's lips, "The circle is broken! I am coming for you!"
Oh, shit.
I am coming for you.
And in this moment of ultimate crisis, Crowley decided he had to act. He took his magical dagger and, according to his own account, stabbed the possessed Newberg in the hand, physically subduing him. All took. Then, in the most dramatic moment of the ritual, he left the relative safety of his circle to physically wrestle the demon-possessed man back into the triangle. And I don't know how that works because apparently
you can just go back in.
Yeah, like that's what I'm okay. Like he's like, fuck it, I'm getting out of the circle and I'm wrestling you. And they started wrestling in the sand so he could try to wrestle Newberg back into the triangle who had stepped out. But according to his own logic and magic, that should immediately kill him, but it's not. And so he's wrestling him in the sand in the middle of the Sahara Desert by themselves. And during this chaotic struggle, one man battling what he believed to be the embodiment of cosmic chaos itself. Finally, after the struggle, Crowley overpowered him and he completed the ritual, forcing the demon to give its secrets and then banishing it with a final exhausting.
What do you mean complete the ritual?
He was able to subdue it back into the triangle.
Yeah.
Get the demon to interrogate the demon like he planned, interrogate him, get secrets, and then banish it with a final exhausting series of incantations and banish it. He had stared in his mind, he had stared into the abyss, fought its guardian hand to hand in the sand of material plane, and somehow he had won. So Newberg got stabbed in the hand a little bit, I'm assuming is what happened when that fight happened.
That's what it sounds like.
Yep. And when it was over, the two men were left exhausted. They were physically and psychically drained, traumatized by the ordeal. And Newberg in particular was horrified by the experience of having been a vessel for such a malevolent and chaotic force.
He also was stabbed.
And he was also stabbed in the hand. But for Crowley, this was the ultimate victory. He believed that he had faced the dweller in the abyss and won. He had confronted the ultimate principle of chaos and imposed his will upon it. In the language of his own magical system, he had successfully crossed the abyss. He had attained the grade of a master of the temple. He was no longer just a prophet in waiting. He was a fully realized spiritual master. The shy, rebellious boy from a pious home had gone to the edge of insanity, stared into it, and had not blinked. And when Aleister Crowley and Victor Newberg finally stumbled out of the Sahara Desert in December, they were changed men. Newberg was psychically scarred, of course, but Crowley in his own mind was triumphant. He returned to London no longer as a seeker or a student. He returned in his mind an actual master. This was the beginning of the most productive and powerful period of his life. Convinced of his own supreme attainment, he threw himself into the work of building his new magical kingdom again with a renewed, almost messianic fervor. His journal, The Equinox, became the single most important occult publication in the world, and he was, for a time, untouchable. The years that followed were a direct result of his acceptance of all of this. And his the next question for him was, what does a man who believes he has conquered both heaven and hell, who mastered the void, do next? And so we end this chapter of his life with Crowley at the absolute peak of this new wave up. And as we've already seen, the answer was that he tried to build that heaven on earth. And though a small, squalid attempt at first in Sicily with his Abbey of Thelema, would become still the most notorious and tragic figure in the occult world at that time. It was where his grand philosophy of absolute freedom collided with messy, brutal realities of human nature, and where people like Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard come into play. And that's what we'll pick back up next week for the third and final part of Aleister Crowley.
This could be a great movie. I would love to watch a big dumb movie of this.
This got to be, right? This got to be a Crowley movie.
Or maybe a Crowley, what's the Sex Education? Remember that show?
Yeah.
That was about sex experts. I would love to see a long form unfolding of this stupidity.
I'm curious, before we go on our last part next week, how you boys feeling about Crowley? Overall, what do you feel about the man?
Obviously, he's a bit of a shithead, but I think I kind of dig he's. I think I kind of think I'm picking up what he's putting down.
I guess, yeah. It's very. I think I feel similarly.
I in no way condone any of the bad things that he has done, but I understand the gist of what he was saying and doing. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. You too, Jesse, feel similarly?
I mean, he seems like a goober to me, but I'm more fascinated by the fact that someone who can so clearly be kind of an elitist asshole still creates an aura of he was in the dark arts and he is this, like that. Like there's very clearly a mystique about him that the way we're hearing it doesn't ring true to me at all. But I'm positive in the time, the mystique is what led people to him. But like looking back at it through the lens of history, I'm like, this guy was an idiot.
And sometimes the most profound idiots cause the biggest waves in history.
He had some big ideas. He had some big ideas. You know what I mean?
He had big ideas. Yeah. We're off to go to Minnesota. Patreon.com/Chilluminati Thank you guys so much for being here for this long dissertation. We'll be back for one more final part next week.
I've always wanted to do this.
It's been so much fun. Yeah, we appreciate you. We love you. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Chilluminati podcast. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Mike Martin, joined by the... I don't know who they are. There's two. What? Terrence Hill and Bud Spencer.
No.
Neo and Trinity.
No.
I don't understand, and I probably never will. Let me just tell you right now that there's two Leon Kennedy and Claire Redfield.
I'm telling you, I think he literally just looked up famous duos
Cheech and Chong.
and has just been going through the list ever since.
I'm trying to dig deep. Which one of you is Dick Powell?
Me? Your name's Jesse Cox.
I want Chilluminati. I want my necklace. I want Chilluminati. I want my
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Chilluminati podcast. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Mike Martin, joined by Alex and Jesse. Like a shooting star across the sky that's actually a UFO.
Bugs crashing your pack's party? Whether they've got paws or sneakers, your pack deserves a home that's protected from pests. That's where Wonderside comes in. Plant-powered protection made with steam-distilled natural essential oils that actually work. It kills and repels fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, and ants without questionable ingredients or overpowering smells. Safe to use around kids and pets when used as directed. Lab-proven to work fast. And proudly made in the USA. We offer sprays for pets, people, homes, and yards. Plus, spot-on treatments, collars, and even shampoos. Whatever your pack needs, we've got it covered. Founded by a pet parent looking for a better way to protect her dog Luna, Wonderside's now protected over 21 million lives and counting. You might have even seen us on Shark Tank. Go to Wonderside.com and use code WONDER20 for 20% off your first order. That's Wonder20 at Wonderside.com. Wonderside. Protect your pack with plant-powered Wonderside today.